if clients or families are purchasing a vacation home or a rental property. And I think might be helpful also to understand the distinction between a full-time rental, maybe Airbnbs as well. I know that's become a really popular investment strategy for some families. How does my insurance change if I buy a vacation house? How does my insurance change if I buy a rental property or an Airbnb?
Great question. Well, I would say we want to break it down to a couple different areas to answer this question. One would be if it's going to be a secondary home, like a vacation property that's just for you and your family, it's very simple. You just add another homeowner's policy and you have it rated as a secondary home. So you buy a home in Arizona, your primary is here in Washington. Well, we'd add a Arizona homeowner's policy for that location, and it'd be listed as a secondary. And then that home would be listed on your personal umbrella for excess liability as well. So whether or not the home is rented to others is going to be kind of the deciding factor on which policy form that we place it on. So a secondary home, vacation home, is just another homeowner's form. A home that's rented to others, some insurance companies have that on something called a landlord form, and the policy is actually a little bit different.
Okay.
And then the next question on, a secondary vacation home is a bit more straightforward, right? And then if you're buying a home as a investment property and it's going to be rented to others, there are a couple different questions that we need to really understand in order to adequately protect you. And that is, the first question is, okay, if it's going to be rented to others, is that going to be on an annual basis where they are going to sign a lease? You're going to recommend renter's insurance for the tenants.
It's like a full-time, normal, traditional rental property.
Exactly. And those are quite straightforward and simple to insure as well.
Okay.
And so we would put that on a landlord policy form. And again, the umbrella would extend over that. And we would indicate the fact that that is a landlord policy.
Got it. So let's say I have a rental property in Arizona. I have my own individual homeowner's policy on that. And then I also have my umbrella, excess liability umbrella policy would also carry over coverage on top of that as well.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And then if you have a policy home that is rented to others, whether it's an annual rental or a short-term rental does make a big difference.
Okay.
And the reason being, the shared economy, so let's think of Airbnb, VRBO, or homes, Uber with vehicles, Lyft, that sort of thing. The shared economy has been growing in popularity over the years. But insurance companies are known for being a little antiquated and not always the best at keeping up with the time. We continue to push for changes to the contracts. I'm always like, hey, when are we going to be able to accept this exposure, right? And so at this point, a short-term rental that is listed on a vacation rental website, such as Airbnb, it's a common one, that is going to be tricky with many insurance companies, but luckily we do have markets that will insure them, right? So it's one of those things where it's not like a one-size-fits-all. Some of the premier companies that we work with that have more sophisticated contract language and, broader coverage overall, they are a bit more hesitant to kind of play in that space, short-term rentals. And so what can happen is they might say they don't want to be on that exposure. Well, if that happens, the nice thing about working with a brokerage firm is that we can then move that. We can kind of solve for that problem. So, for example, Safeco Insurance is a company that in the last few years opened up their appetite for that business. Okay. So they have a nice product, good coverage. I can put that short-term rental with Safeco, and then it's still within one agency. We've just had to kind of move that piece out. So it's one of those things that, each situation we approach uniquely. We go to the underwriter, and, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach with insurance. We could go to our underwriter on one account, and they say, yes, we're going to make an exception on this. This fits our appetite. In another account that has a very similar exposure could be declined. So it's really beneficial for a client to work with an agent who is going to multiple carriers on their behalf to see, what we can do to best protect them.
So I think that's interesting because most folks would probably default to, I want to bundle, right? And I think a lot of insurance companies want you to bundle. I want to get all my coverage to the same place. But what I'm hearing you say, Sophie, is that it actually might be beneficial for me and my insurance portfolio to say, I'm going to have my homeowner's policy here, and for my 3 Airbnbs, that could be covered with a completely different company.
Right, and that might have to be the case. I will highlight that a premier insurance company does tend to want to provide a holistic portfolio, and so they oftentimes will require primary home, auto, and personal umbrella to be consolidated. Yep. So it's usually to kind of be able to work with these companies, they're going to require 3 lines of business.
Yep.
And besides that, if we have to break off a policy, a boat or this or that with another company, that's no problem. And we can solve for that.